A sky full of snow, the ultimate guide to mountain vistas and skiing. The leap into the abyss. The helicopter's blades roared, slicing through the icy wind as it hovered precariously above the jagged peaks of the mountain range. The group of 6 adventurers clung to the edges of their seats, their breaths fogging up the windows. Outside, the vast expanse of snow-covered wilderness stretched endlessly, a white ocean dotted with treacherous crevasses and towering cliffs. This wasn't just any ski trip, this was the most dangerous descent in the world, and they all knew it. The leader, Max, a seasoned mountaineer with a streak of gray in his beard, turned to the group. "All right, listen up. We've got one shot at this. No room for mistakes. The drop point's too unstable for the chopper to land, so we're jumping. Once we're down, it's a straight line to the base, but the path is littered with ice falls and avalanches waiting to happen." His voice carried a calm authority, but his eyes betrayed a glimmer of unease. The youngest of the group, Ethan, barely 21 and brimming with reckless enthusiasm, grinned. "Let's do this. How hard can it be?" Beside him, Nadia, a former Olympian with a sharp gaze, shook her head. "This isn't a game, kid. Stay close and follow the line. One wrong turn, and you're a goner." As the chopper tilted, the side door slid open, and the howling wind invaded the cabin. One by one, they leaped into the abyss, skis strapped tightly to their boots, parachutes snapping open like flowers blossoming in the snowstorm. The sensation of freefall was both exhilarating and terrifying, the ground rushing up to meet them faster than their minds could process. They landed in a flurry of powder, the snow swallowing their impact. Max was the first to rise, scanning the horizon. The wind had picked up, and visibility was dropping fast. "Move," he barked, his voice barely audible over the gale. "The storm's coming in quicker than expected." Avalanche. The group formed a line, carving their way down the slope. Each twist and turn was a gamble, the snow shifting beneath their weight like a living entity. Half an hour into their descent, the first tremor hit. A deep, resonant rumble that vibrated through the ground and up their spines. "Avalanche!" Nadia screamed. The mountain roared as a wall of snow detached from the upper ridge, cascading toward them with terrifying speed. There was no time to think. Max veered left, leading the group toward a narrow couloir. The sound of the avalanche was deafening, a freight train bearing down on them. Ethan faltered, his skis catching on a hidden rock. He went sprawling, and Nadia doubled back, her instincts kicking in. She grabbed his arm and hauled him up just as the edge of the avalanche nipped at their heels. They dove into the couloir, the snowstorm swallowing the path behind them. The group paused to catch their breath, hearts pounding like war drums. Max's face was pale but determined. "Everyone okay?" Ethan nodded, though his hands trembled. "Yeah." Thanks to her. He glanced at Nadia, who gave him a curt nod before turning her attention back to the path ahead. Ice and fire. But there was no time for relief. A sharp crack echoed through the canyon, followed by a groan of shifting ice. Max's eyes widened. "Go. Now." The group surged forward, the walls of the couloir closing in on them. Above, massive chunks of ice began to splinter and fall, shattering on the rocks like glass. Each second felt like an eternity as they weaved through the chaos, the weight of the mountain threatening to crush them at any moment. By the time they emerged, the storm was in full force, visibility reduced to mere feet. The snow came down in blinding sheets, and the biting wind cut through their gear like knives. Max pulled out a GPS device, but the screen flickered, the cold sapping its battery life. "Damn it, we're flying blind." Nadia stepped up, her voice steady despite the chaos. "We keep moving. Staying still isn't an option." The beacon. The group pressed on, their muscles aching and lungs burning from the effort. The terrain grew more treacherous, the snow hiding jagged rocks and hidden crevasses. They moved as a unit, but the tension was palpable. Each member knew that a single misstep could mean death, and the mountain seemed intent on testing their limits. Hours passed in a blur of white and wind. The storm showed no signs of relenting, and fatigue began to take its toll. Then, through the swirling snow, they spotted a faint orange glow. A beacon. It's the midpoint camp. Max's voice carried a mix of relief and urgency. We're almost there. The group pushed forward with renewed vigor, the promise of shelter driving them. But as they neared the camp, a new sound emerged, a low, guttural growl that sent shivers down their spines. Wolves in the storm. What the hell was that? Ethan whispered, his voice barely audible over the storm. Max's face darkened. Wolves. And they're close. The group tightened their formation, their ski poles doubling as makeshift weapons. The glow of the campfire was tantalizingly close, but the shadows around them seemed to move, alive with unseen threats. Suddenly, a pair of glowing eyes appeared in the darkness, followed by another and another. The wolves had surrounded them. Max raised his pole, his voice a low growl of his own. Stay together. Don't run. The wolves advanced, their teeth bared and snarls cutting through the wind. The group braced for a fight, their exhaustion forgotten in the face of primal fear. And then, like a miracle, a flare shot up from the camp, its red light illuminating the night. The wolves hesitated, their formation breaking just enough for the group to make a dash for safety. Shelter and resolve. They burst into the camp, slamming the door of the small shelter behind them. Inside, the warmth of the fire was a stark contrast to the icy hell outside. But the relief was short-lived. The GPS was dead, and the storm's intensity meant they were trapped until it passed. As they huddled around the fire, Max looked at each of them, his expression grim. We've made it halfway. But the worst is yet to come. Outside, the storm howled, and the mountain waited, patient and unforgiving.